On this episode of I'm Not a Lawyer But, the Debrief.
Oh, Doug Evans.
When Greg gets upset
He's
about
man.
stuff like that,
Yeah.
he is just very righteous about it. I
Yeah.
call it.
He did that dude wrong.
He did.
All
Oh, he
six
totally
tribes,
that was so
he
bad.
set him up to
That
not,
was bad.
to
Yeah,
be found guilty.
I've got to think that just based on like my knowledge of the system, and I think they'll come up with
Okay.
and do you want me to say whether I think she did it?
If you want to.
Now, if you're not ready, then go ahead and tell me you're not ready.
I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives.
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not a lawyer, but
The Debrief.
hello and welcome to another episode of I'm Not a Lawyer, but
The Debrief.
I am Melanie, aka I'm Not a Lawyer, but, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Gooseby. How y'all doing?
And we are not lawyers or legal experts, but we get on this podcast and talk about legal things, our opinions, our thoughts, some of the things that I'm covering on my platform. I'm not a lawyer, but those are the things that we discuss. And so today we have a few topics we're going to hope to get through. We're going to talk Sonya Massey. There's some updates in that case. If you don't remember, Sonya Massey was a woman who was shot and killed in her home after she called police. She thought there was a burglar. She called police. They ended up coming into her home. And after some back and forth in the house, police ended up shooting and killing her. So we're going to talk some of that, updates on that. We're also going to talk a little bit of Diddy because, of course, that is still continuing on. And then we're going to get to some Karen Reed because Karen Reed. And we have a guest that is going to join us to talk about it. Someone who is a legal expert, someone who is an attorney. So we're so excited anytime we can have guests to give us their legal insight. So that is going to happen on this episode. So let's get into it. All right. So as I mentioned, we are very excited to have a guest joining us today. It is none other than Miss Hallie Bezner. She is an actual attorney, and she's going to fill us in, give us some insight on some of the topics that I mentioned that we're going to get into. So let me bring her up. Hello.
Hi, how is everybody?
Hello,
We are
Hallie.
well. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Okay. So your first time joining us on this platform. So if you could please introduce yourselves to the audience.
Yeah. So my name's Hallie Bezner. I am a criminal defense attorney. I am in the Chicago area. I'm in the suburbs, but my practice takes me throughout a lot of the state. I do all criminal defense. I would say my areas of expertise would be really all types of, I guess, like violent crime.
Okay.
And I represent a lot of children charged with very serious crimes. So I've represented as young as like 13 and 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
And then I also represent a lot of men who have been in prison since they were children. So not an expert in childhood brain development, but certainly have like a lot of, that's my like area of interest. And I have a lot of cases with that. I really, really enjoy that type of work. Just getting to show people how people can change. Like the coolest thing about my work is I get to say, stand up in front of a judge and be like, this man is not the person that did a horrible thing 30 years ago. He is completely different. And like our society would be better off with him out. So
that's fascinating. Did you fall into that, or that was like your interest, like from the beginning?
I did kind of fall into it. So I practiced in a pretty small county for a while, and a judge just randomly appointed me to represent a couple kids because they like had a conflict. And it turned out that I really enjoyed representing kids, which I wasn't like teenage boys or like kind of awful, but also like they're very funny. So I very much like a 14-year-old boy is like the most hilarious person. They just say whatever they're thinking.
They do.
But then I had a friend that you want to get into the whole backstory. So
We have time if you have time.
yeah. So one of my dear friends from law school was representing a man who was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole when he was 17 years old. And she adored him. She had represented him for almost a decade. They became very close through like the journey of trying to get him out of prison. And in 2012 is when the United States Supreme Court issued the ruling Miller versus Alabama, which basically was like, children are different. Their brains are not fully formed. We can't treat them the same. Mandatory life for a child is cruel and unusual punishment. And so basically through that, his name is Wendell. She was able to get him home in 2018 after serving 25 years in prison.
Wow.
And then in 2020, she was diagnosed with cancer and she unfortunately passed away in 2021. And after she died, he and I became really close. And so it was a thing like, she was just such a special person to both of us for very different reasons. But we kind of like, after she died, we were like, how do we honor her? And we were like, well, the prisons are full of people that should come home. So let's do that for her.
Yeah.
So, and he's the director of a nonprofit in Chicago now. I always joke like, 6 degrees of Wendell Robinson. If I needed Joe Biden's phone number, like I would call him because he probably knows someone. Whether it's from prison or advocacy or lobbying or all that. So so he's introduced me to a lot of the people that I know in that space. And I just know a ton of men who served 20, 30, 40-year prison sentences and are some of the greatest people that I've ever met in my life. And I know that there are so many more people just like them that could and should come home.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing. That's such a great story.
That
I mean,
is.
sad, obviously, but like the journey of it was beautiful to hear.
And nice. It gives me good perspective when I represent my little ones, as I call them, because I tell them about Wendell's story and I'm like, listen, he went down and he thought he was never coming home. And look at him now. Like he gives people hope and it helps me. It also just like, if I'm like, hey, I'm really having a hard time relating to this kid, like I can call Wendell and be like, tell me what he's thinking as a 14, in jail. And I'm talking about 50 years in prison. What does that mean to him? And he's very good at just like that means nothing to him because that is an amount of time that he can't fathom.
You're right.
So it's been a really, like I said, he's one of the greatest people that I know. So it's providing.
Amazing.
So Wendell went to prison at 17. Can you tell us what he went to prison for?
Murder.
Wow.
Murder. So I was about to correlate this with the Mendez twins, right? Were they twins or brothers?
Uh-huh.
Oh well, whatever. They're both brothers.
They're brothers.
But were they twins?
No, I think
no.
One or
That's what we were differentiating between like but they're brothers, not twins.
Just brothers. Are those? Well, I guess those are cases that you cover then.
So what just happened with them, I believe last week is, so after that, the court case that I was talking, Miller versus Alabama is what came out in 2012. And so that's the case that made mandatory life for children unconstitutional. And there have been developments in the last 13 years. Every state has had different interpretations of it. The fun fact that I always like to tell everyone is Evan Miller, who the case was about, is still serving a life sentence. Like all of these people have gotten out his name and he's still serving a life sentence.
Wow.
Yeah. I get like, I just think about him and I get really sad.
Yeah.
But so basically like discretionary life sentences for children are still okay. So that's a gross thing. But as long as the judge considers their youth and its attendant characteristics and says like, yes, I've looked at the fact that he was impetuous and immature and, peer pressure, but I still think life is appropriate, then it's fine.
Got it.
We are a not very evolved country.
Yeah.
But so that's one of the reasons that the Menendez brothers, they were serving a life without parole sentence. And I believe that's one of the ways that they were able to come back into court is
Got it.
and a lot of the work that I've done has been representing people like Wendell who got a mandatory life sentence and then they are eligible for a new sentencing hearing. And that's when you can go in front of the judge and say, hey, judge, here's what he's done in prison in the last whatever. So now, like, I'm in Illinois and Illinois doesn't have parole for better or for worse. Yeah, they got rid of it in the 70s. We just got youthful parole back for people under 21.
Like people can't parole out?
Correct. So if you get and this actually all relates back to the Grayson Sonya Massey case.
Yes.
So, so like on, for example, first degree murder in the state of Illinois, you serve 100% of your sentence. You get no good time. So if you get a 50-year sentence, you serve every single day of 50 years. There's no parole board. It is when 50 years comes, they release you on mandatory supervised release, but there is no like, oh, but I've been really good, let me out. Like that doesn't exist here.
Don't do any crimes in Illinois. Listeners, don't do crimes, period. But also if you happen to get out of Illinois, because what?
Yeah, it's crazy. So
no good behavior.
So
okay, go ahead. Sorry, we keep interrupting.
No, you're great. These are great questions. So there, like everybody. So on murder, there's no good behavior. Period. We have certain crimes that are you serve 85% of your sentence. So that's going to be like you're shooting where no one dies. Certain cases, no good behavior on that. You serve 80. If you get 10 years, you are serving 8.5 years.
Okay.
Period.
Wow.
When you get to the 50% sentences, there's like a little wiggle room, but it's not parole. It's just like your out date can move. Like you get 30 days if you get a GED. So it's not, but that's only on like a 50% sentence. So like a gun, a robbery, any of the sentences that you get. So like on a gun, if you get 5 years, you're serving 2.5.
Got it.
But it's pretty much like the behavior doesn't help you to get out sooner.
Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good at all.
That's crazy. We should have had you on here to talk about Tay-K because that would have been, he is young and he was all of the crime. That would have been good. But anyway.
But knowing you can parole or knowing good behavior can help you out and get you out early would help you, you would think to yourself, let me not screw up in here.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, like with someone like Wendell, that is something that that's the strongest argument that I always have at my resentencing hearings. I have a client that I just did a resentencing for who was serving a life sentence. He's been in for 30 plus years. He hadn't had a ticket in 20 years.
Wow.
And he's never going, he has no incentive to. So this is like the thing that Wendell and I always laugh about is I'm like, I would have spent my whole time in SEG because I'm not acting right for nobody.
No, we reckon shop.
Yeah. Like what's to stop me from, I'll punch every guard in the face.
Yeah, I'm waking up mad every day.
Right. What's my incentive? And Wendell's like, no, it's not like that because you want your time to be, and they take away commissary, they put you in the shoe.
Yeah.
But there's no, but I always am amazed at people's ability to, when there's no getting out early.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I guess also, you're in there, and to Wendell's point, you want your time to be easy because you can lose your life inside of jail. So
exactly.
If I act up, there's gonna be some consequences on the other end. So
absolutely. Well, but the good assignments, they're not gonna let you work in the kitchen with knives if you've been acting up.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah, no incentive to, there's no like getting out or so I'm always very impressed with my clients and the work that they've done on themselves because it truly is for themselves because there is no like external incentive.
How do you find this out about each state if they have parole or not? Just is where
So
is this documented?
I happen to be like a mini expert on this. Guys, so back to that. So there was the Miller versus Alabama case came out, and then there was Jones versus Mississippi is a case that came out in early 2020, I think right before the pandemic. And it was a case that kind of like tightened the reins on that. And basically what it held is that if someone has a meaningful opportunity for release, then it's okay. And so I have argued that in some of my cases because so Illinois started youthful parole in 2019. So if you're under 21 so like if I'm 19 years old, I'm convicted of murder, I get a 75-year sentence.
Mm-hmm.
I can apply for parole after 20 actual years in prison.
20?
You get one shot. And when it's denied, not if, when, because nobody's getting out after 20 years on a 75-year bid, you get one more chance 10 years later. And that's it. So,
dang.
And so like, is that a meaningful opportunity for release? And so that's been argued in our appellate courts because like, I think New Jersey is a state that like you get to go before the parole board every 2 years until you're dead.
Yeah.
And that's how most states that have parole systems do it.
Yeah.
Illinois, again, it's not a great system. And so there's also this like the gaming of, okay, I'm eligible after 20, but I only get, if I've got a 40-year sentence, should I maybe wait until 25 years so I have a better shot?
Right.
Or do I want to try as soon as possible?
Oh my gosh.
It's not great. It's not great. It's not a great system. And while we're at it, so this is the other thing that I had like put on my list to mention with the Grayson case.
Yeah.
So in Illinois, first-degree murder, I've already said, is 100%. So first-degree murder is 20 to 60 years in prison. You serve every single day. If it is committed with a firearm, it's a 25-year add-on. So
add-on?
Hold up.
So 45 years on the bottom
65.
for first-degree murder.
Okay.
Or 85.
And you serving it.
You serve every single day of it. So if you are 18 years old, you shoot and kill someone with a firearm.
Yes.
You're getting 45 years. So again, with Sean Grayson.
Yes.
He is convicted.
Yes.
Of first-degree murder because he used a firearm.
Right.
His minimum sentence is going to be 45 years. He's 30 years old. I don't know anybody that survived a 45-year prison. That's not true. I know one guy that got out after 46 years, but it's not like feed you a clean diet and give you the best medical care. Like it's a murder conviction with a gun in Illinois is a death sentence.
So that is a good transition to talk about the Sonya Massey. What was his first name?
Sean Grayson.
Sean Grayson. That is the officer, again, who killed Sonya Massey in her home after she called police because she thought there was an intruder. So, and that happened was it in Chicago? I feel like I know the county.
No, it's in Springfield.
Springfield.
Sangamon County. So he was a Sangamon County sheriff's deputy.
Okay.
Springfield it's the state capital. It is about 3 hours south of Chicago, smack dab in the middle of the state.
Okay. And so Hallie and I have been going back and forth because she's been kind of monitoring that case. And so with some of the things that have been happening, can you fill us in? You were kind of getting into it. That bit of information in general is interesting. But
so another interesting thing. So it's funny because I feel like Illinois is so far behind in certain things, but we're very progressive in other aspects. So one of the things that we are very progressive in is we don't have cash bond in Illinois anymore. So we got rid of that. September 18th, 2023 was the day that it went into effect. So it's very new. It was a fight to get it passed. It is not a perfect system. Don't get me wrong, but It used to be like in every other state in the nation, you get arrested, you see a judge, they set a bond. If you can pay it, you're out. If you can't, you sit.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is no longer, we don't have, money does not change hands in Illinois anymore.
Excuse me. So no parole
No parole.
and no bond.
And no bond. Wait.
This is
Wait,
there's
because
no-
in my brain.
Hold on, Mel. Hold
Okay.
on.
Okay.
If I get arrested for a marijuana charge,
Mhm.
which is a misdemeanor or whatever it is,
That is not a detainable offense. So you
it's
would
not
be,
okay.
cannot
What's the lowest detainable offense?
misdemeanor domestic battery.
Okay.
Okay.
So I go, it's Thursday. I can
Domestic
bond
means
out.
like your partner though, right?
Correct.
So okay.
Smack your wife around,
I
and
smack you around.
Yeah.
All right.
it is a detainable offense. So
Oh.
nothing is automatic. Everybody gets a hearing. You get an attorney who goes in front of the judge who says, this is a great person. He's never been in trouble before. He's going to show, he's a upstanding member of the community. He owns a home. Well, release him on these conditions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the judge makes the decision. I am either holding you in custody until your trial, whenever that may be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Or I'm going to let you go home with the condition of substance abuse treatment, an ankle monitor, stay away from the victim, surrender all your any number of conditions, but no cash changes.
There is no cash component to it.
Correct.
So if the
Wow.
judge decides to hold me, I can't say I'm a bond out.
Correct.
No, I'm staying.
Yep.
Well, that's so interesting because sorry, this is probably going to be all over the place. Audience, just go on the roller coaster ride with us. But it makes me think of Dirk, who actually is from Chicago, but is charged out here in LA. But one of the things he has been trying to get bond, and so he keeps submitting these bond packages.
Yeah.
And every time he's increasing the bond amount, and usually that's done to try to say, look, judge, like here is even more money. That's going to be even more of an incentive for me to come back because I want my money back. But when you take that element away, this is all reliant on your behavior. And if the judge is like, you're a risk and you're going to be here, or you're not going to be here, or you're not a risk and you're going to show up, like it becomes that and less about the money part, which actually levels the playing field for people who don't have money to put up.
Yeah. And that was the idea. And I always tell this story. So early in my career, I was a public defender in a smaller county in central Illinois, not where Sonya Massey's case was, but nearby. And I will never, as long as I live, forget, I got a call from like a jail administrator. And she was like, Hallie, I got a girl that I need you to get out. And I can't remember this girl's name. I can't even really remember her face. But I remember talking to her and her bond was $100. She had been in jail for 10 days.
That's what I'm saying.
She did not know I get goosebumps today. This was 15, 12 years ago. She did not know combined. She couldn't call 50 people to give $2,
Yes.
she could not come up with 100. And her crime, she stole a cell phone. I remember.
Mhm.
It's not the crime of the century.
Right.
Mhm.
But yeah, so Illinois basically said like, that's not right.
You're right.
It isn't. It isn't.
Yeah.
So it's not a perfect system. And like, I have plenty of clients with plenty of money who would not be in jail if it was up to them.
Yeah.
But it's not up to them anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So that decision is it's straddling the fence. So now the judge can say, oh, they can't afford bond, so I'm gonna send them home. But this person can afford bond, so I'm gonna keep them in. I'm not even gonna offer bond. I'm gonna keep them in jail. That's kind
Wait,
of
no, the money part is gone.
yeah. So that's how it
okay. So the money part is gone. But if I'm a judge and I know you have money, and I'm not even gonna give you that option, I'm gonna just say no bond. There's no bond, so you're just gonna wait here. I'm not just gonna let you off free.
Well, I don't know that maybe you can respond, but I don't think the judge is like, I know you have money, so I'm not like it's not about them. It's less they're not considering everybody's financial situations. They're considering you were charged with killing someone with a gun, and the risk, what they are considering in bond, what they're supposed to consider in bond, right, is level of risk. If they're a flight risk, if the community is safe with them out,
are you going to show up to court?
Are you going to show up to court? Yeah, they're considering those things, not like you got a bunch of money. That in other places they're able to submit that as a way to like, see, I'm going to come, but when it's taken out, it's better because of the story that you shared. Or like my brain even goes to Khalif Browder, the New York. He was so young and that he didn't have any money. He had this low amount that he couldn't pay.
That guy in Rikers
Island, yeah. That's
like
where my brain goes.
A backpack or something.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been in jail in Illinois.
Yeah. Okay,
it's
sorry.
It's not a perfect system. There are certainly people who judges decide to detain who I don't think they should. So that's a good segue into, that's one of the big things that's been going on with Sean Grayson. So if this had happened 2 years ago, he would have bonded out. His parents would have put up their, they would have sold the house. The FOP would have done a GoFundMe. He would have been out. But that's not an option for him. For him, it's up to the judge. So his judge, they did the original. So now we don't even call them bond hearings. It's a detention hearing. And it's the decision is detain or don't detain. And so the judge in Sangamon County ruled that he should be detained. He basically watched the video and was like, fuck this. He crashed down.
Yeah.
Which I think we all watched.
Yeah, for sure.
And he does have some medical. So for example, one of the things to take into consideration, I believe he had a recent cancer diagnosis. I don't recall if he's still going through treatment, but that's what the decision is supposed to be based on. It is supposed to be based on like, where are you going to live? If you're not, are you going to show up to court? What is it inconvenient for the sheriff if we have to take you to dialysis every day? That sort of thing. And so under this new system, you can appeal that decision. So he appealed his detention decision to the 4th District Appellate Court, and the 4th District reversed the trial judge and said, let him out.
Really?
Wow. And they watched the same video.
So then the state appealed again.
Come on.
And said the 4th District is wrong. There is no combination of conditions that could keep the community safe. Watch the video.
Yeah.
And so last week they had oral arguments in front of the Illinois Supreme Court.
Okay.
And so he has on appeal, he has a public defender. It's not his regular attorneys. She did a really wonderful job advocating on his behalf.
Yeah.
Saying, the appellate court was right. There are conditions, and to her point, the argument is that you're not supposed to eliminate all risk. You're supposed to, he'll comply, put him on an ankle monitor, get all the guns out of the house. He's, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
And the state's argument is he is too dangerous. We cannot watch the video.
Yeah.
So that hearing was, and it's actually online. You can watch it on YouTube.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And it's an interesting issue. And like I said, this law just passed in the end of 2023. So there's not like a huge body of case, and like how many other situations. It's not like there's other, the cop who killed someone on video, but he has cancer, and but he also had 2 DUIs, and like there is no comparable situation.
Right.
And I actually have talked to Sean Grayson's attorney about it. I know him.
Oh wow.
And it's, for me personally, it's a difficult situation because I don't necessarily think he should get out.
Right.
But I am afraid for the precedent it sets for all of my other clients.
Yeah.
Get out.
For sure.
The Supreme Court rules that there is no combination of if there's no combination of conditions that can keep us safe from him.
Right.
How can we be kept safe from my lower income Black or brown person who doesn't have resources? So the ramifications are potentially pretty serious.
Yeah. Well, and that's such a good point. And I think sometimes I'm happy you raised it, because I think sometimes, right, when we, the public, hear about cases, we do get riled up. We are passionate and we do want justice. But of course, from a defense attorney, from a legal perspective, that's precedence being set. And and when you consider, unfortunately, but the reality was he was an officer, and usually, right, that's going to be used as a part of his defense. He's not a risk. He was actually, in uniform. He was actually employed, and he was thinking he was doing the right thing. That's used to help his defense. And so when you take a person who isn't a cop, just a regular person, if the officer is dangerous to society, it's more likely that regular people are going to be dangerous. So I think that's such a great point, and I'm glad you raised it.
Yes, it's gonna be
affect other people.
That's gonna be ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. So is there a timeline as to when the Supremes are expecting to have their opinion?
No. And so I do worry that maybe they'll kick the can down the road until he goes to trial so that they don't have to answer that question.
Yeah.
And it did take quite a while. Actually, I'm going to look it up. It took a long time because these are supposed to be expedited appeals under the law, because a normal appeal takes years. But because this is dealing with someone's pretrial release, he's on an expedited schedule. And it took a long time to even get to the point of arguing in front of the Supreme Court. So there's no, like I said, they heard deadlines. It was December. November 27th, 2024 is when the 4th District ruled he should be released.
Okay. And so is he still in jail now?
Yes.
He's incarcerated. Okay. Yes. Because of the appeal.
Right.
Okay.
So what happens is they stay the order pending resolution. But yeah, so the 4th District found the state failed to introduce clear and convincing evidence that no combination of conditions would mitigate any danger posed to the community. So I have a feeling that the Illinois, and this is not based on any actual knowledge I have. This is my vibes.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was on the Supreme Court, I'd be like, I'm not fucking ruling on it. Get this man to trial so we can just send him to prison and be alone, on this.
Yeah.
So it could be 2 months. It could be a year from now. I don't know.
Do you know when his trial is set for? You told me and I forgot.
So he went to court so the latest thing that has happened is his attorneys filed a motion for a change of venue. That's what you're saying. Which I found very interesting, because that is one of those things that my clients are always asking me to file. And I'm like, first of all, those are impossible. And I know you think you're very important. Nobody's heard of you, I promise.
What is the change of venue?
Come in here aren't gonna know who you are.
What's the change of venue?
To have the trial heard in a different county, not the county where it took place.
As in, Karen Reed shouldn't be heard where she's actually.
Let's get Karen Reed out of Canton.
Well, that would help her out.
But a regular you and me, if we were in court, no one knows us. We can have a court where.
Yeah,
you have it in my hometown.
Right. But also from Karen Reed's perspective, does she want a Canton jury? Because do you want people who know how things work around here?
No, I don't.
No.
I mean,
I don't want anybody from Canton.
Right. I mean, I probably wouldn't, but so Sean's attorneys filed the motion for the change of venue. Basically just I saw the motion, and it was like a printout of CNN.com with 3,000
oh yeah.
And I mean, Joe Biden made a statement about that, I don't know of other than George Floyd. I don't know of a case that got more coverage than this one did. So the state actually agreed to it. They were like, yeah, we should probably go somewhere else. So they moved the trial to a county 45 minutes away, because very different there. But it is a different TV area. Like that's one of the things that they talked about in the motion. So every, in Illinois, and I'm sure in most states, you have like your little regional TV stations. So Peoria County, where they moved it to, it's like a different local network.
Okay.
The demographics of from my perspective, I don't know that I'd want to go to Peoria if it was Sean Grayson. I think I looked it up at the time. There are definitely more Black people in Peoria than there are in Sangamon County.
Okay.
And if I'm Sean Grayson, I want a lily white jury.
Isn't that a part of when you change a venue, the demographics are supposed to be similar to where the original venue is? Okay.
Yeah. And it's, it's not a huge difference. But
Yeah.
Like when I think of like having been to both places, I think of Peoria as being more like urban.
Got it.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And just say, because Sangamon, it's the state capital. It's more like legislators and when, stuff's in session, it's very, but I don't know,
Yeah.
This, who knows?
Got it.
Anybody, well, I can't say anybody, but you see that video, it shouldn't matter who the jury is. I mean, it was outlandishly just wrong.
But I mean, we were just talking about the Tyree Nichols case, and there's plenty of video. I mean, that whole thing was filmed. And
oh, yeah, that's true.
For the state trial, they were not convicted. So I think, we'll see.
And I mean, there are people who are going to believe that a police officer is always doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that people get into policing because they want to shoot and kill unarmed Black women.
Yeah.
I think people get into it for the right reason, but I think that people's biases take over and their behavior lends itself to certain situations. But, if you've got, I think it's going to be really interesting. Finding a jury, I think jury selection will be really interesting.
Yeah.
And again, it's going to be similar to like with the YSL trial or like the Diddy trial. Like you're not looking for a jury that's never heard of the case.
Right.
Everybody's heard about it.
Yeah.
You're looking for a jury. Can you ignore what you've heard and just focus
still
on
be
what the evidence is?
Yeah.
But again, it's on video. So who really cares what other,
Yeah. So this officer, he's facing, if found guilty, he's going to be tried as a pedestrian. So he won't get any favor or anything.
You mean like as a civilian?
At a civilian.
Regular.
Yeah. He'll be doing 100% of the time.
So yes. So if he is found, so he is charged with first-degree murder, which is, like I talked about, it's 20 to 60 years with the 25, actually it's 25 to life add-on. I've never heard of anyone getting, because again, 45 years at 100% is life.
Yes.
And I believe Sean's 30 years old. So he'd be, if he got the minimum, he would be 75 when he's released. He's not getting the minimum if he's convicted. Like he's just not.
Yeah.
So, I think based on what I've seen and no personal knowledge of this, but this is another part where Illinois is wild. So in Illinois, we have first-degree murder. There are a couple different ways that the state can get to first-degree murder, but none of it has to do with, like in Georgia, I know it's like malice aforethought is their like capital murder. We don't have the death penalty. We don't have any type of, there's no premeditation required. Premeditation is literally, and that's something like my clients really struggle with because they're like, I didn't wake up that morning to kill him. I'm like, no, it really doesn't matter. So even like one of the ways that you can be convicted of first degree murder is if your actions killed the person and you knew that it had a substantial probability of doing great bodily harm or killing them. And so basically, like if you fire a gun at someone, there's a chance they could die.
Yeah.
If they die, that's murder.
Got it.
So his defense, again, I have no personal knowledge of this, but undoubtedly it is going to be some sort of necessity or self-defense. He is going to be arguing that he felt that he needed to discharge his weapon in order to protect himself and or his partner from the threat of great bodily harm.
Right.
So there are a couple of things that can happen in a murder trial in Illinois. So if you're charged with first-degree murder and you argue self-defense, the jury can find it was self-defense, so you're not guilty. So a jury could hear from Sean, hear from his partner, watch the video, and say he was defending himself. He's not guilty.
Yeah.
I think that's probably highly unlikely.
Yes.
The more likely possibility would be what is called second-degree murder in Illinois. So second-degree murder is when I was acting under fear, self-defense, whatever. So I used deadly force, but my amount of force was unreasonable. So the example that I always give my clients is like, if you're sitting at a bar and someone flicks a piece of popcorn at you and you take out a gun and blow their head off, that's not reasonable.
Right.
Yes, you can defend yourself.
Right.
It's not that you were not in danger by them, flicking a piece of popcorn at you.
Right.
Your use of force was completely unreasonable.
Got it.
So I think that, I mean, you can almost guarantee that his attorneys are going to argue, well, his training and experience taught him that you are supposed to neutralize the threat.
Yeah.
Whatever. And the state is going to say, well, they also taught him to use a taser first. And so the other interesting thing is that the disparity of punishments in Illinois makes my skin crawl. So I know Stara and I have talked about this a lot. So in Texas, my understanding is on a first degree murder, it's like 10 to 99 years. Like the judge can give you.
It's going on.
Yeah.
But that's what it should be because not all murders are created equal.
Yeah.
You know? So, and whereas in Illinois, 45 years on the floor is insane.
Yeah.
Second degree murder is 4 to 20 years at 50%. So and there is no firearm add-on.
Wow.
Oh, so he's getting second degree.
So he could get 4 years, serve 2 years, and
he could get probation. It's probationable. He's not going to get probation. I would bet my life on it. If he is convicted of second degree murder, he'll get 18, 20 years and he'll serve half of it. But
wow.
Yeah. So I think you can almost certainly, and granted, it's up to the client. I've had I have a friend that just got a not guilty on a murder case a couple of weeks ago in Chicago, and her client had the option, do we want to ask for second degree murder? And he said, no, I was defending myself.
Yeah.
It was not guilty. And
wow.
And I've had those in the past too. But again, like with my not guilty on a self-defense, my client still had the bullet in his arm from where the guy shot him.
Yeah.
Legit self.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that his attorneys would ask for a second degree murder instruction.
Okay.
And then essentially the jury is going to have to decide, were his actions reasonable given all of the circumstances?
Got it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is wild.
I know,
I didn't even know the officer was in jail. I didn't know.
So he's being held in a different county. I don't remember which county he's in, but again, because she can't, the jail is run by his old department.
Yeah, right.
So they put him in a smaller nearby county.
Got it.
And he's been in jail, like all the rest of our clients.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if he could have, Scrooge McDuck levels of cash, and he's not going anywhere.
Wow. Is there a center they put officers in, or they?
So that's a good question.
Population?
Oh, you know what? It is set for trial.
Oh,
October 10th, 2025.
October 10th.
Oh, that's right around the corner.
Yeah.
I need to add it to my calendar. Oh, but I think they said no media. there was already a request for media, and the judge said, no, not so.
So, we have it was the request for extended media coverage.
Oh, that's right.
That
That's
was
right.
denied. So media will absolutely be there, but they are not allowed to photograph or film.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is in Illinois, it's a case-by-case basis. And the judge, and I have some friends that practice regularly in that county, and they said that like that's that judge's never allows it in any case.
Wow.
So this is again, Sean's not being treated differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
They never allow it. So yeah, so that'll be really interesting.
It will. Thank you for that update. That was like so comprehensive. That feels like I feel caught up to date. So thank you. And for all of that insight. That is so interesting.
Educational.
For
But back to
sure.
my question.
Oh, what? And
Do
then
they put police officers in a different jail or holding area?
Do you remember the Laquan McDonald case?
Mhm.
So that was the young boy, I think he was 16 or 17, that was shot 16 times by a Chicago police officer in God, it was like 2014.
No, it was
a long time ago now.
Yeah.
So the officer who posted bond and got out, because we used to have cash bond then, he was found not guilty of first-degree murder. He was found guilty of second-degree murder, and he was also found guilty of aggravated battery with a firearm and got 6 years at 85%.
Okay.
6 years?
And he, if I recall correctly, almost every state has some sort of compact with other states so that they can kind of like switch out their high profile prisoners. So he's out now, but my recollection, the news was reporting at some point he was like at a prison in Vermont or something. So I would imagine with Grayson, if he is convicted and sentenced to time in the prison, he would be sent to, I don't know if they can send to a federal facility.
Okay.
You know what? They can. I know that they can. But I don't know does it come from the governor?
Yeah.
Know.
Okay.
Do they call up another governor and be like, hey, I got one for you? I don't know.
Man.
Okay.
Yeah, he would almost certainly be housed at the very least. But again, like, do you think inmates in Vermont haven't heard of Sonya Massey?
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's insane.
Wow.
I know we've been here for a while, so I'm going to transition. I have to ask before I transition. Did I read, see, or hear that you do federal cases as well?
I do. Yeah. Probably about half of my cases are federal.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Which is why it's a good time to transition quickly to Diddy, because that is a federal case. And I would love to I'm going to ask you a very specific question that I believe I know the answer, but I want to be clear. Right. So one of the charges against Diddy obviously is sex trafficking, right? And that's in regards to Cassie. Now, obviously she was on the stand for a number of days. She went through their 11-year relationship and how on multiple occasions they had these freak offs, and the prosecutors are saying, right, that like and even she said at the beginning, this was like a willing thing. She was doing it. She wanted to do it. Over time, she didn't want to, but felt like she had to. Essentially, this is a very watered down version of it. Mm-hmm. With sex trafficking, here's the question. Do the prosecutors have to prove that she was trafficked multiple times, or let's say the jurors believe that the Intercontinental Hotel video, they were actually in there having a freak off. She tried to leave that freak off. He obviously on camera beats her to get her to stay. And that is the prosecutor showing that, like, see, she was forced to be here to engage in sex. She tried to leave. He forced her to stay. If that one incident was their example of sex trafficking, could that be enough for a jury to convict him on that charge, or does it have to be multiple times?
So I think that one time can count. And I believe that if I had to make a guess, That's why they've charged the conspiracy element of it,
Mhm.
because the conspiracy allows them to say like anything that was related to, like when it's a conspiracy, everything comes in.
Yeah.
So normally in a criminal, if my client is charged with possession of a weapon, the indictment is going to read, on this particular day, he possessed this specific weapon. But if he's charged with some sort of conspiracy involving weapons, then it's at any time throughout the conspiracy did he possess weapons. And I think that that's probably federal prosecutors love conspiracy charges. I mean, we saw it in, that was a state case, but in the YSL case,
Yes.
think about all the random bullshit that came in that case that had nothing to do with anything, but it proved they're drug dealers. And if they're drug dealers, they're probably murderer, and I think that that's probably, and the law allows them to do that. Not unethical or outside of the bounds of what's permissible. So I think as far as Cassie is concerned, I think if at any point she was trafficked, and I think that's common sense. I think that with any type of domestic violence situation, or really, any type of rape situation, just because I had sex with you last week doesn't mean you get to have sex with me whenever you want to.
Right.
It is not a blank check of permission.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what the government will argue, is that she may have consented at one point. Maybe she consented then, maybe she consented again 2 weeks later, but in the middle, if she didn't consent, sorry, my internet. Oh, what a face to land on. Then that counts.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
It's
what you're saying about the conspiracy goes to, I think it happened yesterday, actually. At the beginning, the defense attorneys were saying this is becoming a bad act free-for-all. They are, meaning the prosecutors are just putting in all of the bad things that Diddy has done between this period of time, none of which he is charged with. They keep saying he's not charged with assault in any of the racketeering activities. It's not even, assault is not included in that. And so they are just like, look at how bad he is. And so that goes to what you're saying, conspiracy. It's like, let's just dump it all in there and hope something sticks.
Well, and let's hope that the jury's sitting there thinking, okay, he's a batterer, he's a rapist, he's he's a briber, he's all of these things. So he's a sex trafficker. That's not a leap.
Yeah. Right. Got it. And then the other question I'll ask about that case, just getting your thoughts, or if maybe you've employed this tactic before. Today they had a psychological and forensic, maybe I'm saying it wrong. Anyway, it was like a someone to speak about the mental health side of a victim staying in a relationship, staying in an abusive relationship specifically. That is who was brought on the stand today. And
so the government brought
correct
someone in to say it's normal for victims to stay. That's why Cassie didn't leave.
Yes. Why victims, that it's normal for victims to stay, why they choose to stay, how they deal with staying, what are some of the behaviors or things that they do, and trying to appease the person to maybe stop the violence. Or she even talked about victims. It's common for them to start to self-medicate or try to make themselves go numb so they don't have to kind of mentally be present in the moments. And then as well as why they may take a long time to tell people what's going on in their relationship. So they kind of, this doctor went through all of that. They hadn't gotten to cross yet. So I'm curious what the defense will try to pull out in regards to this expert. But I'm just curious about your if you've used someone like this for any of your cases. I know your cases aren't like this, it sounds like, but what are your thoughts on kind of having these experts in to kind of talk about that mental side of it for people who aren't able to understand or are having trouble maybe thinking, well, she stayed, she clearly needed to.
And I think remember like when the Me Too movement started and it was like you had to explain to people like why you should believe women.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
because that's not natural for everyone. Like,
Yeah.
there are plenty of, like, I know it was like kind of jurors tend to be like old white people. So I think from the prosecution's perspective, it makes sense that you would want to bring someone on because, not everyone has like the basis of knowledge of, there are plenty of people who think like, well, if he raped you, why didn't you leave?
Yeah.
So it makes sense. I would be curious, how the defense is going to cross-examine. Like,
Yeah.
is this someone who actually ever even talked to Cassie, or is this just an expert generally? Because if I'm the defense, I'm going to be like, but you don't know why she stayed because you never talked to her.
Yes. The ruling was that she hasn't spoken to Cassie,
Yeah, that would
and
be my first question.
The ruling is that she has to speak from a general perspective of victims and not specifically about this case. Actually, that was the ruling.
So if I'm the defense, that's okay. Who the hell cares what this guy says? He's never talked to Cassie.
Yeah.
But isn't the jury is 8 men and 3 women, correct?
4. 8 men, 4 women.
8 men, 4 women.
Mm-hmm.
I can speak for men.
Hello, not all of them.
not all of them, because when men hear that she keeps coming back to them, they're gonna just generally think, she wants it. She's doing it at her own.
And to be clear, there's also women who are.
I was going to say that's exactly what I was going to say.
Speak to men.
But I'm just saying, but men are. We need to be. You need to explain this to us, because some of us are just straightforward. We just think, oh, she wanted, she did it, and we don't think about the mental aspect of the situation. So, unfortunate for her, there's 8 of them as jurors. Hopefully, they're mentally and
but I'm saying
mature.
that there are. That's actually, Hallie, go ahead. I was about to.
No, I think we were going to say the same thing. I mean, there are plenty of women who might say, "Well, you obviously didn't hate it all of the time." In my own marriage, sometimes you have sex when you didn't really want to because you're being a good wife. Whatever people might think, or. You got to go to the Met Gala. I'd go to the Met Gala for getting my ass kicked at the Intercontinental. You never know what people are going to think.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like there were moments that being Diddy's girlfriend was a living hell, but there were also, it's also a living hell to not be able to pay your light bill. And that's not something she had to worry about when she was Diddy. So everybody's perspective on that, I think, is going to be, there are plenty of people who put up with all sorts of shitty stuff from shitty men, and they don't get $20 million settlements from it. So, I think a woman can be a dangerous juror in this type of situation too.
For sure. Okay, and then let's move. Unless there was anything else you wanted to add, or I didn't ask you about for Diddy. If there's anything you wanted to say.
No, I did read some articles yesterday that. Some people think he's got a chance.
Yeah.
So I guess it's going to come down to whether or not people believe Cassie.
Yeah.
Well, based on what we just talked about, he has a chance.
We also haven't heard from the other victims.
Exactly.
Yet.
That's what I was going to say.
I really think that my thought on it is that the government knows that Cassie's testimony can be taken a couple different ways, but it's sure laying a nice foundation and context for the other people who are going to come in who never wanted it.
Yeah. I am so curious who this other victim is and what they are going to testify to.
Will we get to know their name?
No.
It's all under seal?
It's all under seal. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it could be a celebrity. We don't know.
Yeah.
Could be anybody.
Wow.
So
or a child. Could be a child. I don't know.
I am so curious
who
this victim is and what they are going to add to, like you're saying, to this kind of narrative and this foundation.
When I think of sex trafficking, I think of more of like the Epstein type stuff. Like that's what I've kind of been waiting for.
Yeah. And I think to that point, I think the way a lot of people think about trafficking is in that frame, right? And somebody also was saying this, and I think I'm saying this generally because I'm sure I'll get a bunch of people commenting to me. I'm saying generally that a lot of people's perspective and thought about sex trafficking is usually these very like, I'm gonna put quotes here and say perfect victims, in the sense that it's just this young girl who was at the mall with her friends and someone snatched her up, right? And so
Movie type.
there's no ability to actually add dimension to people or victims because you only see them this way and that's what you expect. But the reality is people are people. Okay, they are multidimensional. They have different aspects to them, and they want to do things sometimes, and sometimes they don't. They go to different places, or they dress certain ways. Like, they're allowed to be people, and that doesn't allow or excuse or give you the reason or provide a reason as to why they are trafficked, right? And so I think the narrative around sex trafficking has always been a certain way, and a case like this makes you have to think about it, forces you to have to think about it in a different way. And some people are receptive to that, and some people aren't. Some people say he's guilty, and some people don't. And you are entitled to your opinion. And if you're on the jury, you would be able to have a say. The rest of us are just on the internet sharing our own opinions. Okay, last thing, because we've been here for an hour, I want to talk about Karen Reed, because Karen Reed is always Karen Reeding.
Are you following Karen Reed?
I have been, yeah.
Woo.
Last week we had the episode prior to Shannon Burgess getting on the stand.
Yeah.
And Shannon Burgess was a mess. He got on that stand.
That's the one who lied about his resume.
Yes.
Okay.
He got on that stand.
Isn't that embarrassing? Like, I lied on my resume.
That's right.
Everybody think I got a bachelor's degree, but
not in a court of law.
In the courtroom.
And it started off so, like, his direct was fine. It was like him going. They're always so confident and like, yeah, this is how I arrived at what happened, and
I mean, the thing for me is like, the whole point of having an expert is like, fourth grade science, the scientific method. If everybody does the experiment the same, we end up at the same result, right? Yes. So out of all the fucking people in the world that can download Cellbrite, you got the guy that lied about his resume? Like, for real?
His major wasn't even the college didn't even have his major.
Unless he said that's not even offered at that school.
And his line was, "Oh, that was a mistake." He said, I misspoke.
My major was business administration. That was a mistake, sir.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And it was like 3 resumes. It was like, look at this one, look at this one, and then your LinkedIn.
Well, and the crazy part too is people were talking about it on Twitter before he even got on the stand. Like, I watched his testimony because someone pointed out on Twitter that, like, at one point his LinkedIn said, like, bachelor's coming 2022, bachelor's coming 2024. And then in the filings, it said, like, bachelor. Well, and also, like, my God, how embarrassing. I don't know. Like,
but then they said somebody disabled his LinkedIn, so you couldn't see it.
You couldn't even click on it anymore.
So now, bro, you done got caught.
Right.
Oh, man.
That's the thing. Like, and as the defense, you have to be really delicate with that, because there's nothing wrong with not having a bachelor's degree. Yes. Like, plenty of people reach the highest pinnacles of, like, Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of college. Like, you do not need a bachelor's degree to be a good person or a successful person.
Correct.
But you need to not lie about having a bachelor's degree to be an expert. Like, it's just wild.
At this time, I think he's been working for this company, or he has 10 plus years of experience. At some point, he could have just, let me take this off.
I feel
and
like,
say I have my technical degrees and the experience.
Do you think that he, like, slept really good last night for the first time in like a decade? He's
I'm
like,
sure.
I've been hiding this secret forever. And
every time HR calls him, he like, oh.
They're like, no, man, we just wanted to talk about your dress code. And he's like, oh, God, I thought it was my bachelor's degree.
That is like when not that I do the same, man. I've never done this, but I'm just gonna say, if you ever lie on, I was gonna say your resume, but if you ever lie on anything, though, in your brain, the thing that you think is going to happen is what happened to him. That you're gonna be put on a national stage, international
And
for
now
that matter.
everybody's gonna know
And now
you are
everybody is gonna watch your face turn red as you are questioned about the fact that you never actually graduated. And here's this small lie that you told 20 years ago, and now it's outed for the world to see.
mortified.
How embarrassing. Like, oh my gosh.
He's not going to get any more jobs because he's
Right.
like an individual
Well, and like,
contract.
you know that like his wife called her mom to be like,
my
Mom, Shannon's gonna be on TV today. Is she gonna play the character? Like, oh, the layers of mortification.
He should have just been like, you got me.
Yeah.
You got me.
He's gonna be known as a guy who lied on his resume. You know the character be a guy who lied on his resume.
But now companies are about to start checking this stuff. They
But
don't
how?
usually check it. They don't usually check the check your resume.
What if he had just kept lying though?
Right.
Mm.
How do you check? It's not like there's a database
I
of
know.
bachelor's degrees.
Right. Like, did you guys call the University
Right.
of Alabama? Because
They probably did call.
he should have put a school that doesn't exist anymore. That's what
Right.
they always tell you. You got to put a school that like
One of
That's
those,
what I
like,
do.
for-profit.
go for one of those.
That's what I do.
Okay, so we needed to talk about that, but something happened
Just
today.
need my foot in the door.
I got it from here. Until you don't. So today I wasn't able to watch, but Greg was telling me that there was a
Neurosurgeon?
neurosurgeon on the stand who, first of all, they ask him like, when's the last? It's Brennan is, so it's during direct.
Are you an active
Are
surgeon?
you an active surgeon?
Yes.
And he says, matter of
This
fact, let
guy-
me just play it.
He had surgery yesterday.
Let me play it really quick.
Surgeon?
I am very
You an active working neurosurgeon?
I am very active working neurosurgeon. I get up every day at 4:30 in the morning to go to work, 5 days a week. I take call 300 days out of 365 days a year.
Did you work yesterday?
Yes, I did.
What type of work did you do yesterday?
I did 2 brain surgeries yesterday.
Are you working tomorrow?
I have 4 surgeries scheduled for tomorrow, which is why this is a little bit delayed for me, and I have 4 on Friday.
And what type?
Yeah.
And I just want to say, when you compare that to Shannon Burgess,
Right. Like someone should have been like, and what was your bachelor's degree in? And how many years?
tell us why you're qualified as an expert. Well, because I worked on 4 brains yesterday.
Right.
I hate when this guy asks all these questions about these
Brennan.
people's education, but this one was
It's
fulfilling.
necessary.
This guy, man, I'm on it 24/7. He goes on and he just makes the statement saying what caused O'Keefe's death. And
Okay, here's what I was confused about. And I was watching on Millionaire Mel's live this morning. So Dr. Scordy Bello talked about she took the brain out and like put it in a solution. Is this the guy that physically looked at John O'Keefe's brain in the solution, or is this a different guy?
Oh,
this
That's what I was not clear on.
that you know what? I don't even know if they
It can't be
asked
that
him
guy
that.
because the guy that looked at the brain after Scordy Bello took it out is like a forensic neuropathologist employed by the state of Massachusetts, right?
okay. Yates, Stara, for the people in the comments are saying it's not the same guy.
it's not the
This
same.
is a different one.
Okay. So
Okay.
we have never heard from the
This guy.
neuropathologist that
Nope, not yet.
actually physically looked at the brain.
Not yet. Nope.
And he didn't testify in the last trial, right?
Nope.
I don't believe so.
I don't know. Okay.
That guy didn't.
So this guy only read reports.
Okay.
And so I want to play what he says. Let's play what he says. Is it
Yeah.
gonna end here, or I need to jump?
I don't know. Just play it and see where it
Surgeries
goes.
do you have tomorrow and Friday?
I have 3 brain
talk about
tumors, 1
more.
trigeminal neuralgia, and on Friday I have 4 patients with movement disorders.
You're here today.
All right.
Laceration on the back of his head was caused by a fall. Could this be caused by a fall landing on hard ground?
Yes, I mean, like I said, it's a classic blunt trauma laceration.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether this injury, the laceration and the basal fracture, was caused by Mr. O'Keefe falling backwards on the ground?
My opinion is that that's what caused his whole injury.
So this guy is saying that's what I know, but the context of the fact that he didn't look at, he looked at pictures is interesting. I don't know. I don't know.
You talking about a brain surgeon he graduated from college in 81.
Oh, hello. That's
So
not where I
he's
thought you were
been
going.
doing this for a long period
Right.
of time. So I'm gonna
But-
take his word for it. That
Yeah,
but him
Yes.
and what his name? Burgess.
Burgess.
They're the only witnesses, not witnesses, but people testifying that give just a little bit to the Commonwealth.
Right.
Just a little bit. Everybody else is whatever. Y'all ain't making any sense.
Right.
That's because it's all the
But the
officers.
times that the car did the 3/4 turn and all of that, if that's true, okay, I can see
that's
that
not
happening.
Great.
Yeah, but it's not solid, but it's
Right.
something.
Mm.
But this
Agreed.
surgeon
Mhm.
saying he fell back and hit his head for sure. I can agree with that. Now,
Right.
how he fell down
See,
is the
that's
question.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
where I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, you operate on brains, but you don't like push people down and then operate.
That's
You
what
know,
I'm saying.
like you don't see how they get to you. Like that would be
Yes.
unethical.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
You
But
know,
then,
like-
out and operate on your brain for a test.
Right. You know,
but
not
then the Commonwealth asked him, he was like, did this come from a blunt or rigid object? And then they objected to that. So you couldn't get his answer or whatever. But that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for
well, how could he know? He
How would
wasn't
he know?
there.
Right.
that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. But that's my take.
Yeah,
These
I mean,
two
I'm sure
guys
you
are the
can
only
say,
ones.
You know, I've done 750,000 brain surgeries, and 42 of them came from someone getting whacked in the head with a baseball bat, and they didn't look like that. But you know, like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the most common when you've got nothing else as the defense in
Mhm.
a murder case. You're asking the detective, okay, but you weren't there
There.
when he got. You don't
Yeah.
know who. You know, that's always your question for the forensic expert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, he had a bullet wound. You don't know who pulled the trigger, right? Correct. Okay, thank you. You know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
like we know he had a head injury. I don't necessarily think that that's like earth-shattering information to me, because what matters is, did it come from being hit by a car,
Right.
or something else?
Or something
and he
else.
didn't. Did he say anything about?
Answer
I didn't. I
No,
watched.
so even when they crossed him, they didn't ask that. And I thought they were
Well,
going to say, well, does
Don't
these
ask
injuries?
what you don't know the answer to.
Yeah. So
Because Jackson said the other day,
what
I only ask questions I know the answers to.
Yeah,
I said, clip that. Run
Right?
it
That
down.
was
what the doctor did say though, he was saying that from an injury like that, your frontal vortex
Come on.
and could leak, and the it could give you the raccoon eyes,
Oh,
as if
that's
You
you
know
bad.
what?
you know.
I had a child injury case that had like it's sort of like a shaken baby case, but not
Okay.
exactly. And that's like one of the
Mm.
hallmark
Signs of it.
things, as they call it, the raccoon eyes
Interesting.
from
Yeah.
the brain.
Yep, and that's what he
What can
said.
happen
He
from-
said the brain.
Yeah, the brain literally goes and
Yep.
like smashes against the front and the back.
So that was the
Okay.
only person testifying. I'm like, okay, that makes
Interesting.
sense, but it doesn't seal the deal at all
Yeah.
Yeah.
for anything. So
I'll ask a question you may not want to answer, but I'm going to ask, and it's a little bit broad. And that is, if you were a betting person, because I don't know what you do in your spare time.
I
but
love
if you-
betting.
Would you bet that the verdict will be unanimous or hung? Not which way unanimous, but do you think that we are going to get a unanimous verdict or hung again? So far.
I think we'll get a unanimous verdict.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know, I mean, hung juries are so uncommon. I've never had one.
Huh.
I don't think, have I? I've done a retrial of a hung verdict, and you know what? And they came back after 2 hours and were like, we can't make a decision. And my client was like, fucking again. And 30 minutes later, they came back not guilty.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
I don't know. There was that one case in Curtis Flowers, the murder case in Mississippi he was tried like 6 times.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
He had a couple hung juries, right?
Yes,
And there were a couple like reversal. I mean, that's the only case. I can't think of a case that's been hung more than once.
Okay.
Who was that prosecutor? You remember his name?
Oh, don't get Greg started. No, we won't go there. We won't.
I'm supposed to call him today.
For a while, Greg was calling that office like every day for like a week.
Just to tell them how outraged you were?
He was very upset.
They'd say hello, and I'm like, y'all some suckers.
He was
Click.
just doing
The next day,
civic duty.
hey, how you doing, man? As soon as she about to answer, I'm like, I don't care. Click.
Doug Evans.
Oh,
Doug Evans. I hope
he retired in 2023.
Yes.
Call him at home.
That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna hit him up.
Retirement sucks.
Oh, Doug Evans.
When Greg gets upset
He's
about stuff like that, he is just very righteous about it. I am calling.
He did that dude wrong.
He did.
All 6 trials.
That was so bad.
He set him up to not.
Bad.
I've got to think that just based on like my knowledge of the system, and I think they'll come up with
okay.
And do you want me to say whether I think she did it?
If you want to.
She totally did it.
Hold on.
I don't think she's guilty though.
Wait, say more. You're going to answer my 3 questions because let me ask my 3 questions that I love to ask before you say it. So I believe you can have an opinion on what actually happened in the case, what a verdict should be in a case.
There we go.
And what you just want the verdict to be in the case.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. I think she absolutely did it. I think it was probably an accident. And I think she doesn't realize that she did it. They have not proven anything beyond a reasonable doubt, and the verdict should absolutely be not guilty. But I think she what?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm
and everyone freaks out in the comments when I say that.
Oh yes. Oh girl,
it's your mention.
I'm with you on that. She could have did it, but I'm saying what I always say. I was like, she didn't hit that man. No,
it was an accident.
She didn't hit him with no car though. That's what I feel.
What did she hit him with?
Oh, do you think she threw the glass at his face or something?
But what I think,
I don't think that.
What I think, they're 2 drunk individuals. She could have punched him, pushed him, whatever, and he fell. And
he's a big guy, and she's a little lady.
But he was drunk though.
But wait,
but so was she.
I know. So she might have. Hey,
he's a big guy.
He's
a big guy. He's a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
How did all of those officers, Higgins and everybody else who was at that party, walk out of that house and not see this big blob?
That's why she's not guilty. That doesn't mean she didn't do it.
And the dog bites for another thing. See, this is what I've always thought.
Why are they all so shady about it? If she, this is blowing my mind.
I don't think she hit him with the car. If she had something to do with it, I totally agree. Something is right up underneath our noses.
Hit it. I mean, how else he could die? What else she hit him with? I don't understand.
So to your point, yes. My other scenario though is he went in the home.
You don't even think he went in, Hallie?
No.
Okay, sorry.
He went in the home. They got to fighting or something. They end up beating because of old girl. Because Higgins liked.
I don't know.
Maybe Higgins and Karen, and then Colin had bruised knuckles.
Maybe it's because I'm lazy, but You think someone fought to the death over their
No,
girlfriend? Like, who cares?
I think they punched
I love
him.
my husband, but if someone tried to fight me, I'd be like, get out of here.
Drunk men and drunk police officers. Oh,
Ah,
they could have punched him and he fell and hit his head, and
Yeah.
they drug him out the back door and put him right there and left it at that. That's
fascinating.
those are the two things I'm thinking.
There's just, to believe that happened, there are just so many people that would have to be involved in it. And like, if there's anything that I've learned from doing this job, is that people are really stupid.
Amen.
Like, you think they put together like an almost perfect crime after 14 vodka sodas at the waterfall? Like, I don't know. I just
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
another thing. No one mentioned Colin being in the house. 1. 2, the dog didn't make any noise. Apparently.
Everything is. I'm sorry, Jen McCabe. Your brother-in-law, the first responder, is inside, and you're not running inside saying we need help. Like, everybody's behavior is
bizarre, right?
Bizarre.
It doesn't make sense.
It makes no fun. But like,
so how do you reason that with it?
Exactly, and that's why I think she's not guilty.
She's
because
not guilty.
like I can't find if. For the in a perfect world, if the Commonwealth's theory makes sense, why is everybody else acting so fucking stupid?
Yeah.
But also, if she really did drop him off and he went inside and got his ass, why are you acting? Why are you calling him a pervert in the middle? Nobody's behavior makes sense or is good or like either way.
Yeah.
And and this is what's often like very frustrating. And I have a good friend who just did a trial that ended in a hung jury a couple of weeks ago. And it was in federal court, which like never happens. And I was like feeding him lines to say to the judge when they were like deciding what to do with the trial. And the judge kind of got smart about it. But she was asking everybody's position on like, should we declare a mistrial? And I told him, I'm like sitting in the back of the courtroom, like texting him, say this. And I said, no, tell her that the jury obviously has doubt if they can't make a decision. So they should keep deliberating. And the judge was like, well, I appreciate your perspective. However, and he looked at me like, damn it, you got me in trouble. I'm like, no, that was a perfect soundbite.
Yeah.
If the jury is smart, they should go back in the jury room. They should read the instructions and they should say, we obviously have doubt. Which means she's not guilty.
Which means
it doesn't mean she's innocent.
You're right.
No one is asking to declare Karen Reed innocent. Nobody in the jury room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if they're smart and if they take their job seriously, like you should read those instructions and you should say, they have not proved beyond a reasonable doubt that she's guilty. Therefore, she's not guilty. The end. And again, it doesn't mean she's innocent.
Right.
It just means everybody else is fucking weird too.
Well, this is why
you took it right out of my mouth.
But this is why I love even asking that question, the 3 questions, because regardless of how you feel about Karen Reed, if she did this, if she did not, the question that jurors have to answer, is if the Commonwealth, if prosecutors did what they came to do, which is prove that she did it beyond a reasonable doubt. So regardless of how you feel, did they prove it? And that I think many people can agree on, which is they are not doing
and
they
don't have the ability.
They don't have the ability to,
because people put their phones in a military base, and like and that's part of the thing. Like, if I'm John O'Keefe's family, I'm mad at everybody.
Yes,
absolutely.
Y'all didn't.
All of you.
Y'all didn't question the homeowners. Y'all didn't go in and check the house.
Yeah, you
What's
didn't
happening?
get their phones right away.
All of that is so shady.
It's so shady.
then the house across the street has a Ring camera or whatever digital camera. And the officer was like, "Oh no, I didn't check his because I know where his camera shoots, and it doesn't shoot all the way over there.
Which, like, that might be true, but shouldn't you download it just to be
Right.
sure?
Yeah.
Like, I know my Ring camera, I'm on like a main street, not a main street, but like a through street in my neighborhood. And we had our Ring camera set up for like 2 days before we were like, we got to adjust the settings on this because every time a car was going by, it was going off. So you can set like the distance.
Yeah.
So we have it set so that it only goes to like the edge of our sidewalk, because otherwise it was going to be going off. So he made that could totally be, but like, let's download it.
Yes.
Let's make, yeah.
So you all won't think I'm lying.
Yeah,
Here you go.
right.
This is
100%.
what has been seen.
Well, and that's always my biggest complaint with really any homicide case, especially, but with any, crime that I'm defending someone on, when the police aren't doing their job, it's like, you want my client to face this ultimate punishment, but you couldn't be bothered. Like, you care now, but you didn't care then.
Right.
And that's not fair. Like,
Agreed.
that's not how we do this.
Yeah.
So,
I love it. Thanks for the bombshell. You're going to get all the comments.
Follow me on TikTok. Tell me what an idiot I am.
That's hilarious. No, I love it. Thank you so much. This was so good.
It
Very
was.
fun, very insightful.
And
Thank you for being here. Can you tell people how they can find you, whether it's platforms or maybe they committed a crime and need some representation?
So my website is beznerlaw.com. I'm on all the socials. My Twitter is Hallie Bezner. My TikTok is Hallie Bez. Those are the two that I'm usually on. Instagram is Bezner Law is my Instagram handle. But yeah, TikTok and Twitter are kind of my two main socials that I spend my time on. So follow me there.
Follow, support. Don't commit crimes, but if you do and you're in that area,
don't do it in Chicago.
Shut the fuck up. Statement. Take your phone to the nearest military base. Remove the SIM card. This is not legal advice. This is a joke.
This is a joke.
Sell your
I love
dog.
it.
Sell your dog
and your house.
Rename her. What was it? Coda.
What is the new?
I don't
Cara.
Cora.
No.
Because it's my grandmother's name. It's my grandmother's name.
I said
Chloe
sell the
now
dog.
Cora.
You're supposed to rehome the dog. I'm sorry.
Rehome the dog.
Yes.
It's Cora from Chloe. Okay, thank you so much for letting us take up your time today.
Thank you guys so much. It was really fun.
All right.
Cool.
See you
Nice
later.
meeting you.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you again to Hallie for joining us on this episode. That was a ton of fun. Very insightful. I feel like we learned a lot and we also laughed way too much. And she dropped her bombshell of what she believes to be true in the Karen Reed case. I have to say again, I do, and I say this it's my thing I'm saying for all of the cases. And I welcome the conversation and welcome people's opinions on what they actually think happened in a case, what they believe, if they believe that the prosecutors are proving that, what happened beyond a reasonable doubt, and then what they personally just want a verdict to be. I believe that can apply even to the Diddy case. I think it applies across the board. So keep that in mind. Don't be in the comments stoning me or Hallie or Greg. Okay, just listen, like, and move on.
I want all the smoke.
I don't.
When it comes to Karen, what's her name?
Reed. Hello?
Karen Reed.
Forgot. Last thing is I don't even have my notebooks with me, but we have merch available. We have notebooks that are really, really fun. So the link to that will be in the description box. Make sure you check that out.
And the tumblers.
And the tumblers are also available. Thank you for being here. David, you want to come say bye? Oh, you can do our thing. And so with that, thank you. And until next time, David will take us out of here.
Yeah.
Hey. Thank you. All right, bye.